How's it going, everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac, and I'm here with a video on the final movie in the Rush Hour trilogy, Rush Hour 3. So, if you want my rating right now, I'm gonna give this movie a 7.5. At its best, it's an 8, but at its worst, it's like 6.5 around there. It was better than the second movie for me, but it wasn't better than the first one. The first one was still peak. I ain't gonna hold you, but it did have some good stuff in it. Just like the other ones, had its good, it has its bad. But overall, it's a nice conclusion to the trilogy. And excuse me, I heard that there might be a fourth one coming. Hopefully, if they do it great, like they do it justice, bro. Because man, this trilogy is underrated, or at least like not underrated, but I'm glad I watched it. I do not regret watching it. But if you guys, wanna hear my spoilers, the opinions on that, then by all means stay. But if not, then that's my rating for you. But let's get into it. So Rush Hour 3 takes place a couple years after, or not a couple, I guess like a amount of time after the second movie where they went to New York. Isabella isn't here. It is known that her and Lee dated or are dating. So we know that they had a relationship or may still have a relationship. I don't know. They didn't really mention it. We didn't see her in the movie, but basically this movie brings back Ambassador Han and So Young, and we get to see them when they're a lot older. It's fire. It was really cool. But basically, this movie is Ambassador Han has his life threatened. Somebody shot him with a sniper while at the meeting, so now they have to protect him, but also figure out who is this person that tried to kill him and why are they doing it, right? And it brings back the triads from the second movie, and we're basically gonna see their leader and take down. Well, not take down because they didn't really take down their leader. It's more like they took down an important person that relates back to what's his name, Lee. So they're in LA right now. They basically get assigned to protecting Ambassador Han. Some people raid the hospital that he's at. We see Soo Young, and they realize, yo, this takes place in Paris. So they go over to Paris to where they're actually hiding out, and through hijinks, they basically figure out well, actually they figured this out in LA, but not Jackie Chan. Lee has a brother, an adopted brother, an orphanage brother, who they were together, but then Lee got adopted by his officer officer father, who also died in, like, we learned about that in the first and second movie, but we realized that, yo, this was his sworn brother. They're not related by blood, but they're related by like code, honor, all that stuff. So he's in the triad while Lee is a police officer, so that brings conflict. And you have Carter over here, who's basically his new formed brother, and that brings some conflict, not because of Carter, but because Lee, he's just struggling to come to terms with that. So they're in Paris, they meet some new people like George, they meet Genevois, I think that's her name. They meet another Asian assassin lady like the one in the last movie. I keep getting interrupted. I am so frustrated. Oh my gosh. But they're in Paris. They meet new people again like George, Genevois, another Asian assassin lady, and now we basically go from bar club to, well, chase on the street of Paris, and then we get the final act where Kenji, which is Lee's adopted, or not adopted, excuse me, orphanage brother, he calls him and be like, yo, come to this restaurant. We have So Young. And then this is where the final act takes place. And honestly, if I had to be honest, I don't know if this is my favorite last act because the one from the second movie was really good as well. I don't know. But I all last acts of these movies are fire, no doubt. They all just have so much effort put into them. But Kenji and Lee start fighting. You have Carter doing his sauce, whatever he's doing, and it was a cool fire last act. We got to see a lot of action. We got to see some cool scenes. We got to see some emotional ones. And even though Kenshi didn't get a redemption arc, he basically was just like, I'm not going to be bad anymore because I'm dead. And Lee has lost a lot of people. He's lost a lot of people, but he hasn't lost Carter and he hasn't lost Soo Young yet. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But that's where the movie ends. At least like they stop Kenji and they have a cool scene where the last guy, the main villain, who was actually Mr. Reynard or Mr. Reynard. I don't know how to pronounce that. Like Ray, like Rey, like Reynolds. I don't. it to me it's Reynolds. I don't know how to pronounce Reynolds right, so I don't know. It's weird, but Mr. Reynard, he was the main bad guy after all because we got introduced to him in the beginning, which you could already tell he was gonna be a bad guy. But it's whatever. The best bad guys are the ones in the Asian faction more than they are the American ones. So that's just how it is. But that's how the movie ends. They George, the taxi driver from earlier, he kills Mr. Reynard, and Genevieve lives, Carter lives, Lee lives, So Young lives, and they end the movie in the most iconic way possible. Like if I was watching these movies when I was young when they were coming out, I would have been tweaking because they end the movie the same way that the first movie had like it was a callback where they had war playing like war. What is it good for? That song. They had that song playing as the end song, and that was so iconic to me. It was like, yo, that's a love letter to the fans, bro. That's so fire. I love that. But yeah, the movie's over, and this honestly, this movie was chill. It was chill. Again, like I would give it a 7.5. I thought this one definitely had more story than it did action. And I don't know how to feel about that because that's what I wanted, but not in like a not in the way that I wanted it type thing, right? Because I wanted a story where both of them were involved, but this was more Lee than it was Carter. Carter had more jokes and all that, more quips, but I wasn't laughing at them as much. This one, for me, the comedy didn't land as much, but the story and the action were there to fill up for that. They had some funny jokes, though. I won't even lie. They did have some good jokes. This series for sure still has the jokes coming, so it's not like it wasn't funny. Just I wasn't laughing as much as I was the first and second movie. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't funny. Again, I wanna specify that. But the story for the first half, I wasn't really interested that much. I was like, oh, the first 20 minutes I was interested. Then like from like 40 minutes to an hour, I wasn't interested. But once we get to nearing the final act of the movie, I was interested again. But it was mostly just about Lee, and I wish Carter got some screen time. Like I'm glad it wasn't just like only comedy throughout this entire trilogy, but I don't want it to just be story either. Like it's having that happy medium, which is hard to do. I know I'm saying this as a consumer, so I don't really have a right to be like, oh yeah, do this, and this. But it's just observations at the end of the day, right? It's just how I'm feeling about what I saw. And I feel like some parts it was too much story because Lee was getting all the story. We found out he has a brother. We found out that his dad was an officer. We found out that the person who killed his dad is a bad guy, and just all these things connecting him back to the story. And then Carter only got one thing, and that's Lee, So Young, or not one thing. Lee, So Young, and his dad being an officer. He died. Like that's basically it, which kind of sucks. I wish he had more involvement, but at the same time, how could you, right? How could you involve him? So him just being his partner by virtue, excuse me, him being his partner by virtue already had him involved. So excuse me, him being Lee's partner had him involved. So you didn't really get anything else. But somebody in here, huh? Weird. But I just wish Carter got a little more like character development. But at the end of the day, he did get some character development. He got more used to the Chinese culture. He and Lee also got used to the more, African American culture as well, and they blended that together with and these are stereotypes, by the way. So it's like some of it's like, oh, this didn't age well, but other times it's like if you can take it on the chin, it's funny, so it doesn't matter. But some of it can be like, yo, relax, dog. This is kind of crazy. But at the end of the day, this movie isn't racist because if it was, it would be a lot worse, and it would not have garnered this much attention and love from people. Because there is a line with like the when Carter arrested Iranian doctors, and this is post 9/11, so it was still fresh. But that line did not age well at all, dog. That line did not age at all. That was bad. But other lines, they were fine. It's just that one was a stinker for sure. But again, like the jokes, they're not racist, right? They're not mean spirited. They're just the characters. That's what they are, and that's what makes this series fun. Is because it's pushing a line, but not pushing it too far, which is a good taste in comedy. It kind of borders that like darker humor sense, where if you everybody gets made fun of, it's all equal. It's not just targeting one thing, which is cool. But action is always fire. This movie for sure had the best action because it's the probably the highest budget out of all of them since it's the latest one. But Carter has some fire action, bro. I ain't gonna hold you. Like we already know Jackie Chan's gonna be saucy, right? So I expected that, but Carter got some sauce, bro. This movie he really showed out, especially in the final act. He was really balling out of his mind, bro. Oh my gosh, he was taking on so many people by himself like he was Lee. It was so sick. I loved it, and then So Young as well. She was fighting like fire action, really fire action. And the story overall, it was alright. Probably like the second best story compared to the first one. It goes the first one, then the third one, then the second one in terms of story. But it was just alright. It was serviceable story. I think my favorite movie is gonna be the first one overall. I just enjoyed it the most. But this movie again was not bad at all. I definitely recommend watching the whole trilogy. And that's just one thing about this whole trilogy. I loved it from start to finish. I thought it was great. So I definitely recommend watching it. If I had to give it a rating like the whole trilogy, it would be an 8. Definitely be an 8. It was so fire. Generally so fire. But, it's going to be it for me for now. It's going to be the end of it. I know I haven't been watching Bleach much. I haven't been posting it much. That's because I'm still on vacation and I just haven't had the motivation to watch it while on vacation. So it's like, I'll watch it when I get back and give it the time it deserves because I don't want to force myself to watch it and then get burnt out again after I watched like so many episodes already. So I'm gonna give it some time. Maybe some series in between that happen. It's not gonna be a lot, probably like one maybe. But yeah, hope you all look forward to that. I'll check y'all out and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you, Rush Hour, for being one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. I'll check y'all out. Peace.